Okay, this is going to be a lesson on factoring quadratic trinomials that the leading coefficient is not a 1. Again, the leading coefficient is not a 1. And I'm going to use a method called AC method, but it's also called by your book grouping method. But I like to call it AC method to distinguish it between 4 terms factored by grouping. But you do end up using grouping within this. So first of all, again, we're going to notice that the leading coefficient in this case, A, which is on the square term, is equal to 4. And C, which stands for the constant, is equal to positive 3. And then we take the product of those two, so A times C equals 12. So we want two numbers whose product gives us 12, and their sum of those two numbers has to equal 7. So the two numbers that are going to work are going to be what? 4 times 3. So let's go ahead and write that down. 4 times 3. That does give us 12, and when we add those, 4 plus 3, we get 7. So what do we do next is we just bring down the first term, which is 4x squared, bring down the last term, which is plus 3, and then we put those two in the middle, 4 plus 3, but we put x's on them because we want to get, what, 7x. So we're going to put in the middle plus 4x plus what? 3x, which gives us what? 7x, which is our middle term. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a factor by grouping, and that's why this is called factor by grouping method sometimes. They call it not factor by grouping, but they call it grouping method. So we're going to group those first two terms and these last two terms. So the first two terms, what's common is a 4 and an x. So let's bring out a 4 and an x. And what would be left would be x plus 1. Out of those last two terms, what's common is a positive 3. You got to either bring out positive or negative of the last two terms. It looks like it's going to be positive 3. 3 times what gives us 3x, x. 3 times what gives us 3 plus 1. And we know it worked. Why? Because we have a common factor. What's our common factor? We have a common factor of what? X plus 1. So we pull out that common factor, x plus 1. Once we pull out that common factor, x plus 1, what are we left with? X plus 1 times what? 4x plus 3. And again, what method is this called? This is called what? Grouping method, or it could be called AC method. I like to call it AC because what? A, you write down what A is and what C is. So again, you use this method when what? The leading coefficient is not a 1.